Hi everybody, it is Julie from Pages and Pens. Today I am here with a recommendation video about the truest and most loyal and most amazing friend groups that I've read about recently. I cannot wait to talk to you about these. Let's jump right into it. Right off the bat, I want to say that I am working with the authors of Starworld, Paula Gardner and Audrey Coulthurst, and I requested this arc, oh gosh, back in early January, and I got it, and then after getting it, I was contacted and said that, hey, there's actually a group of booktubers that are going to be doing like a little bit of a book tour to talk about the book. Would you be interested in joining in? And I said, absolutely. I already really want to read the book. I'm already really excited for it. So I read it early. I tabbed and annotated and really enjoyed it. And then I get to just talk about this in any way that I want. I'm just really excited to work with the authors to promote the book. This is Editing Julie vlogging from the future because as I was editing this video, I realized I forgot some really important information. So I'm going to add it in here really quickly. I wanted to make sure that I mentioned that this was a booktube tour that was actually scheduled by Cece from Poems of a Book Nerd in conjunction with the authors, and she has kind of put together the following booktubers for this booktube tour. So Cece's video actually went up as I'm filming this edition. It went up yesterday, and ironically enough, she actually filmed a video about friendship recommendations, and I did watch it, of course, because I always watch her videos, and we only had one similar book, so definitely go check out her video and my video because we have some different books on our list, which is really exciting. And I wanted to mention the other people that are participating in the booktube tour because I want to list them all down below, and make sure that you go and subscribe, turn on your notifications, look for these videos, because everybody's going to do a different take and a different spin on the book and what they took away from it, which I'm really excited to see, actually, to see like how everybody kind of related to it. Next up on the tour is going to be Alex from Pucks and Paperbacks, posting on the last week of March, and then it will be Adriana from Perpetual Pages the first week of April. Then you have Chelsea from Chelsea Darling Reads the second week of April, followed by the last person, which is Kaylee Hyde, on the week of April 15th. I believe that Kaylee's actually posting on April 19th, which is the day that the book releases. You guys can go check out everybody listed down below. Make sure that you are following them. Thank you, Cece, for organizing all of this. And thank you to Candlewick Press for sending me over the book and letting me know that this was happening. I'm excited to be included. So that is everything. Back to Prior Julie and the rest of the video. The premise of this book is Sam and Zoe, who really are in very different social circles at school and have had no reason to talk to one another, but Sam produces a piece of art that Zoe sees and wants to use on set for a school play, and then a relationship forms based upon that, and they both realize that the two of them are dealing with some really difficult things at home. Sam is dealing with her mother, who has OCD. She frequently has to step in to stop her mother's cycles. She feels like she really can't get away from her mom, that she's going to be a continuous caregiver. Her father and her mother divorced. Her father lives in London, I believe, and she just feels like she's constantly responsible for her mother and making sure that her mother stays okay with the cleaning, with the number counting, with all these different things. And Zoe is struggling because she is the adopted child of a couple who had then gone on to have a biological son who has special needs, and her adoptive mother, her mother, has now cancer, and I believe that it's in like stable remission where it's not gone but it's also not growing. So she's dealing with the pressures of feeling like she has to be this perfect child because her mother is sick and their biological child is sick, and her biological mother gave her up, and if she's not perfect then maybe these people won't want her either. They're both dealing with a lot in their own worlds, and they start to form a friendship that really doesn't go outside of text messaging because they're from these different social circles, and for a while their only escape is texting one another in this made-up world that they call Starworld. And creating this world together really does give them each an escape and a connection to one another and a friendship that builds between them that helps one another cope with the things going on in their lives. And it's easier to tell somebody outside of their social circle, namely each other, what's really truly going on, even though they're not being upfront with like their IRL really close friends. because it's just too hard sometimes to have these conversations with people. There is in this a situation where Sam starts to develop feelings for Zoe, and this is not like a female-female romance. I know that it's kind of, I've seen people talking about it like it's going to end up being a female-female romance. Doesn't end up, it's not about a female-female romance. This is about a friendship. I love when you can portray friendships in a way that it helps a character through hard times. And anytime that you have a friend group that helps one another through things, where there's mutual understanding, mutual respect, and yes, sometimes there's arguments, and yes, sometimes there's miscommunication and misunderstanding, and there's realistic fights, and there's realistic portrayals of what a friendship is like at that age, and the way that people struggle to cope at that age, and struggle to realize that they're not alone. It's just a really realistic way of looking at things, even if these two people's situations are not necessarily something that's mirrored in everybody's own life. I found this to be a really great book. If you're looking for friends that help one another through like the hardest of times, and that mutual respect and understanding, and just like really some of these really sweet interactions where they're trying to build one another up and build one another's confidence and help one another realize that they're worth more than they believe they are. It's a really heartwarming look at female friendships, and I really enjoyed it. That's kind of the stepping off point that I had for this video when I thought about how I wanted to discuss this book to you guys. You guys know I love doing recommendation videos. You guys know that I love the found family and really great friend group books. So this was my stepping off point for recommendations of other great friend groups that I think you guys should read. So we're going to jump right into my most recent read, which I finished legitimately last night, and that's The Girl with a Red Balloon by Catherine Locke. This one is a historical magical realism. That's not my thing, guys. But this one follows Ellie, and she gets sucked back in time to Germany when the wall is still up dividing the two, like East and West Germany. And there's still people dying, there's still a lot of segregation, there's a lot of bigotry and a lot of danger in East Germany. She's there on a school trip, kind of hiding that fact from her grandfather, who is a Holocaust survivor, but she wanted to go back and learn more about it, and boy does she get a lesson in it, because she gets moved right back in time to a time where like it's still a really real struggle, and she's trying to get back to her own time and learn this really cool magic system with these balloons. And another main character whose POV that we get in this book, Kai, and Kai is Romani, I think that's how you say it. But he discusses the fact that he used to be called a gypsy, but he is a Roma, and he's been excommunicated from his culture, like from his people, and it goes over that culture as well as Jewish culture, as well as Mitzi, who is a German girl in this world. So it follows all aspects of this story. It follows it was interesting to see Kai and his sister Sabina and their experience being Romani, and the way that they were also oppressed and a part of the genocide as well. So it covers so many historical things in a really fun way, but it also gives you a look at these three kids, Mitzi and Kai and Ellie, as they go through like the injustices of the world and how they can fix them in any small way. It was really powerful and really moving, and none of it is possible without the friendship that these three form. One of the characters that we see in this, Mitzi, is queer. She's got bright blue hair. She's not accepted even by her German people, even though she's German. She is also an outsider and at risk in this world. Kai, because he has dark skin and he is Romani, he is also at risk in this world. Like, he can't be talking back to the police that come around. And this friend group and these kids and what they go through and the way that they help one another is really touching and really heartwarming. And none of them make it through this without one another. So it's just another situation where you have kids that are put in really difficult situations and have only one another to really rely on. And it's pretty beautiful. Then, because I am rereading this for a rereadathon right now, I'm going to mention This Adventure Ends by Emma Mills, which is at its heart about this friend group. And there are some traumas that occur within the friend group, specifically for Gabe and Vera, whose mother has passed away. And these friends kind of rally around them to try to make things at least a little bit better for them. And Sloane is really committed to just doing whatever she can to help this new group of friends. The friend group in this is so heartwarming, and again, real. There's going to be arguments, there's going to be fights, just like these other books as well. There's arguments, there's fights, there's things that people don't agree on, and then you work through them. Like, it's not this sugar-coated, everything's fine, nobody ever argues situation. And they still love each other, they still accept one another and support one another no matter what. And that's the thing, that's the thread that I love in books like this, is when you can argue and fight but still care really deeply for one another and be loyal to the end for one another. That's where my heart is for friendships. Which is why I'm also going to mention the Holo series by Kim Harrison. This is an adult urban fantasy. This one follows Rachel, who really has to depend on Ivy and Jenks, her new business partners, to stay alive, to thrive in a world that is really scary at times. She's gonna live with Ivy, who is a living vampire, who is queer. Relationship-wise, things get complicated for the two of them, so she's navigating a whole bunch of stuff. Ivy and Rachel fight, but they love each other and they push through. Jenks is sarcastic and they all get in little tiffs, but they all work it out. And honestly, none of them work in this world. Like, none of them get through without the other. It's pretty great. I'm really enjoying it. So I reread this one recently, and I'm currently in the middle of book 2, the audiobook, and I love the friend dynamic. I love how real they are with one another. They don't pull punches, but they're all very, very loyal to one another, and it just warms my heart. So if you're looking for an adult version of any of these stories or tropes or themes through a book, that's a great one. Keeping on the fantasy train, I will mention Six of Crows, because again, there is no Nina without an Inej, there's no Inej without a Nina, and there's probably none of these characters without the others in their group. Kaz and Wylan and Jesper and Matthias and Nina and Inej really depend on one another, and this is a situation again where there's going to be arguments, there's going to be disagreements, but they're all very loyal to one another, and none of them make it out of these situations without being able to rely heavily on the others. The friend group and the dynamic in this is really, really heartwarming. The found family dynamic is just spectacular. I have a lot more here, guys, I'm not gonna lie. I'm going to talk really quickly about Spellbook of the Lost and Found by Moira Foley Doyle. This one's by Lee Bardugo. Like, do I have to say these things? Like, I feel like you know these. Not the first time I've talked about this one. I think I also talked about this in a witchy recommendation video. If I read this before I put that video up, I don't remember, but I'll link that up above regardless. This one follows 2 different friend groups, and each friend group is very, very reliant on one another. They're very close. They're very bonded. There's a lot of things going on in this, a lot of life and death stakes. Honestly, again, none of it works unless they trust each other. None of it works unless they really are working as a team. And again, in this, you see fantastic kids that are a little bit lost, a little bit broken, but find one another and help fix those pieces and fit those pieces and navigate a world that doesn't feel fair sometimes, but they have one another, so it works. I just love those stories. This one, again, is queer and diverse in a lot of different ways, and it's fantastic. It really is. I love it a lot. Radio Silence by Alice Oseman. Again, we've got friends that rely on one another because the outside world might not really understand them. We have a podcast that's being run by a boy who's just got his heart hurt. His home life is not fantastic, and this is his outlet. It's his creative outlet. And then a girl that comes into his life who is doing fan art for that, and the two of them form a friendship and a bond that helps them cope and relate. It's about whether or not you're good enough, whether or not you can handle the stressors of life changes, going off to college. This is like a YA verging on new adult, about friends saving you. Like, literally friends saving you, and how much those relationships mean, and how much caring and loving goes into helping people, and how loyal and how you'll do anything to make sure the people that you care about are okay. The Serpent King by Jeff Zentner, and I don't think that you have a situation where 3 people rely heavily on each other more than you do in this one with Dill and Travis and Lydia. Travis and Dill are dealing with a lot, and without one another's friendships, you just don't see these characters being able to make it through. And they're pushed by one another, and they are supported by one another and loved unconditionally by one another. You have this group of friends that become one another's support system and become their lifeline and become their hope for a better tomorrow. And it is gorgeous and stunning and heartwarming and it's a friend group that I really, really love. Then we're going to talk about Ivy Aberdeen's Letter to the World by Ashley Herring Blake. This one is a middle grade. Ivy's world has been thrown upside down when her house is ravaged by a tornado and it is no more. Ivy finds a friend in June, and through her is able to cope with a lot of the heartache that she's feeling. She's feeling really alienated from her family. She's literally lost her home. She's lost everything that feels safe and known to her. She's coming to terms with the fact that she likes girls while she's also in middle school. Her home is gone. A lot is happening for Ivy, and June becomes a lifeline to which she can cling, and their friendship is something that gets her through. Her friendship and understanding and support is something that Ivy starts to really lean on, and without June, I don't know how Ivy would have gotten through what she did. This book most closely correlates directly to Starworld in like a mirroring way on a middle grade level. Again, like in Starworld, where Sam starts to develop feelings for Zoe, Ivy starts to develop feelings for June. Reciprocation isn't a guarantee in situations like this or in Starworld. I think that this one most closely mirrors that particular situation. It was just beautifully done. It was really, really gorgeous. And then we have two books by the same author. We have The Wicker King and The Way to the Stars by Kay Ancrum. These are the last two books that I'm going to talk about. In The Wicker King, we have Jack and August, who are one another's literal lifeline. There's nobody else in the world that is supporting them, that is keeping them afloat the way that the two of them are for one another. Their parents have, for all intents and purposes, abandoned both of them, and they rely very, very heavily on one another in a very unhealthy way, though. Depending that heavily on just one person is really, really toxic at times. I think it still speaks to the same kind of theme of friendships being the lifeline that Starworld does in a more toxic way. But if you're looking for a more hard-hitting, dark book on the same kind of a take, this is a great one. The Way to the World is a much healthier view on the same thing. The friend group in this is fantastic. They're all troubled, they're all flawed, they're all a little bit dark and a little bit twisted. They all have their own issues, but they come together to form a very, very loyal, like, ride or die group of friends that are there for one another in the end. They are dedicated to one another. I have a full review of Kay Ancrum up on my channel already discussing The Wicker King and The Way to the Stars specifically and why it means so much to me. This, I think, is another just fantastic example of the way that love blooms, the way that relationships progress. Starworld has a progression in their relationship between Sam and Zoe that is mirrored a lot in this relationship between Ryan and Alexandria. You don't trust it right away, you know, like Sam is from a very different social status in the school than Zoe. She's hesitant at first. Does she mean it? Is it a joke? You know, there's a trust that has to be gained, and then the relationship can grow from there, much the same as in The Way to the Stars. And I think that this is a fantastic friend group. There are situations that really speak to my heart when you have friend groups that are that loyal and that dedicated to one another. That is kind of like, that's my thing. That's what I look for in a book. If I'm going to be reading a fantasy or a contemporary, I want things that make me feel, and nothing's going to make me feel more than close friendships. I've been really lucky with my friendships, and I would do anything for the people that I am loyal to, for like my dear, dear friends. And I love seeing that reflected realistically and raw in novels. Those are my recommendations for friend groups that are just aces. I hope that you guys will pick some of these up. I hope that you'll give Starworld a read when it comes out. You guys know this is not the first time I've talked about any of these, with the exception of Starworld and now The Girl with the Red Balloon, because I just finished it. But they are phenomenal stories about friendships and relationships that are real and raw and complex and beautiful, and I love them all. Let me know which one of these is your favorite down below, and that's going to be it for this video. If you liked it, be sure to give me a big thumbs up, click subscribe, and I will see all of you in my next video. Bye, guys.